Welcome to the Proof of Concept Podcast, the ultimate fusion of IT and cybersecurity. Hosted by Jared Durval, a tech veteran with 15 plus years of experience. Each episode unveils 3 dynamic segments. Executive Brief, delivering strategic IT insights for leaders. Technical Deep Dive, exploring cutting-edge tech for experts. And Cyber Job Alert, guiding aspiring professionals with industry trends and expert interviews. Join us at the crossroads of innovation and security, where executives, engineers, and future tech stars converge. Stay ahead in the ever-evolving world of IT and cybersecurity. This is the Proof of Concept Podcast. Let's revolutionize tech together.
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Jared Durval, and this is my first time going live on a Friday afternoon. I promised you guys that I would be live today, and I'm still learning how to do that. But a lot of people have been asking me questions, right? I receive, on average, about 100 to 150 messages on LinkedIn and emails and everywhere on social media. And so I realized that I can't respond to all of them. And some of them require that I take time to respond. Others require that I conduct some research so that I can provide accurate information. And so I say, why not create a space where we can all gather and I'll answer all of the questions all at once. So this is the space where we gather and I answer your questions. There are a couple of things that I want to make sure that I do. First is that I want to make sure that I'm recording here on a backup recorder here in case the video editors want to make some magic out of this video. There's that's being taken care of right here. And sound is great. Everything's looking great. So the idea here is to answer questions. And I think there's a way for me to put the questions up on the screen here. I don't know where they will be coming from. That's the first time I'm doing this. But I presume that they would be popping up on this screen. And all I'll have to do will be to just put them up and answer. So that should say Q&A. I can replace this text very easily as well. And let me do that. Q&A. And that should say, send us your questions. Okay. Obviously, this gets customized based on the reason why I'm going live. And I'm a technologist, and this whole idea of live streaming in social media is completely new to me. I have never been involved in this sort of aspect of life. And so I'm learning, but I learn fast. That's the one thing about me. I learn fast. And now I'm able to conduct this as if I was doing this for a number of years. So, but there's still a little bit of a learning curve. I haven't seen any question, and I don't know where we'll see them. But I'm going to be looking at LinkedIn as well here and Instagram, and to make sure that I see questions if they're being asked of me. So I want to make sure that I bring this feed on this screen right here. You don't see those screens, but there's a whole environment set up specifically for this sort of activities. It's been over a year since this whole thing has been built, but I never had the opportunity to use it the way I should because lack of time and, every day is a busy day. So I want to make sure that I start using it and start providing the value that I intended for this space to provide to the communities that we are trying to build together. And the whole idea is to provide accurate guidance, right? To be a voice of accuracy, a voice of wisdom, benevolence, and a voice that looks out for those who are seeking, right, technology, information, technology, career, right, information. And so I want to be the voice that balances things out because plenty of people are very, I need to change my glasses. This one has glare, and I have a second eyeglasses. Without them, I don't see too well. But one is for reading, as the doctor says, and another is for me to look fashionable. into it as well, but it doesn't remove the lights. This is the right eyeglasses for me right here. Okay, so the whole space is filled with people that have different types of interests. I was going to say imposters, but who am I to judge and who am I to classify what people are? But I have determined at times that a lot of information is being disseminated that's not necessarily accurate. And I'm watching here to make sure that when you guys ask questions, I can see them and I can answer them. I want to make sure that I mute this side so there's no echo and stuff like that. But I don't want to miss the questions. That's the whole idea, right? So that I can have the time to breathe during the week and answer your questions on Friday afternoons. So there are a lot of people who are trying to fill a void in the information technology and information security or training space or education space. And why is that necessary? I believe this becomes necessary because the traditional institutions haven't done a good job, right? Educating and crafting curriculums and programs that provide quality education, quality technology education. Think about the best universities. We have some of the best universities in the world. We are in the United States. Some of the best universities in the world are American universities. Harvard, Yale, where I came from, Florida International University. If the folks from there are watching here, Panthers, you know what I'm talking about. Best law school and a bunch of other stuff. And we innovate in a bunch of ways. But in spite of the massive amount of budgets and innovations that the American universities have made, we have not managed to have a firm grasp on technology education. See, in the beginning, technology was something for the nerds, something for young kids, kind of like video games, right? It wasn't taken seriously. And now that it's taken seriously, the academics, should I say, or the people who lead the universities, they have a hard time catching up, right? Because in the beginning, it was for young kids and people that they don't take seriously, people who are wearing hoodies, eating chips and drinking sodas and playing with computers. It wasn't something for academics. And now the university wanted to found a reason for it to come and to endorse the technology field, whether it's information technology, information security, software development, etc., and now AI. And the university as an institution is an institution that moves slowly, right? The very nature of the university or academia in general is something that invites slowness, right? Or lack of speed. And that's the way it works, right? The things that we're learning now, they were researched some 50, 60 years ago, right? And it's now that they're making it to the general public. And so technology, on the other hand, is something that moves fast. And the academic world hasn't been able to gravitate or to move as fast as the technology world moves. And so if you leave the education of technology in the hands of the university, then you have a problem. You have a problem where the technology is moving faster than the universities can move. They can't adapt. They can't understand the speed. They don't know the latest things. They can't keep up with them. The professors, they have plenty of things that they're doing. They don't have the time to understand what's coming out this year, what's coming out next year, and they don't build technology. You see, university professors, if they're teaching technology, they're not like engineers and architects who are in the forefront in building technology every day. And as a result of that, they're not aware of what's new. We all know that. And so other institutions noticed the void and they started to find a way to fill the void. And so you have other types of institutions that came up, like technical colleges or boot camps. And the latest title now is academies or academies. I think got to check my accent here once in a while. Academies. And you have a bunch of academies coming up to fill this void left by the universities. And the idea is beautiful. It looks to me that the intent is innocent and beautiful, right? Is entrepreneurial. It is capitalistic in nature. And we see a need. There's a customer segment. There's a customer segment that's suffering. In as true capitalists, we're coming in to craft a solution and go and solve this problem and get paid for the solution that we're providing. That's the whole idea here. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's the fabric of our society. If there's a problem, Americans are going to find a solution and they're going to capitalize on this solution. So there is no problem there. And that's exactly the same thing that I'm doing here as well. There is a problem, and I have identified the problem, and I know that I have a solution. I'm bringing my solution to the marketplace. But there's one thing we have to keep in mind. This is not like all other types of products. In engineering school, I learned how to convert a product into a business. A group of engineering students that I was part of, we invented sort of this thing that we call the parallaxed solar panel. And that was a cool term to say that our solar panel will follow the parallax of the sun so that it can capture the maximum amount of solar energy to power our cell phones and all of that. And this was a different era, right? And this was school that we were talking, we could charge our cell phones as we were on campus. And all we need to do is to open this parallaxed solar panel, and then it would follow the parallax of the sun. The parallax is a trajectory that the sun travels, or any object travels in space, right? As it's observed from Earth, the observation of this spatial object at times can be referred to as the parallax. There is something called the parallax of the sun that was measured only one time in history. And so we invented that stuff, right? And a bunch of entrepreneurs came to teach us how to convert that into a business. So we learned that, and we learned how to capitalize on solutions that we are bringing. That's a good thing. But education is not like any product. It's not like a solar panel, a cell phone, a battery, a mug, a computer, an application, a dating application, or social media application that we can develop. It is much more comparable, in my opinion, to a life and death necessity. I don't know if that's the right term, but think about safety. If your house is being burnt, you call the ambulance. They're going to say, you have a problem. I have the solution. I've got to capitalize on your problem. That's not how it works. Safety cannot be something that you do for money. It's got to be benevolent. There's got to be benevolence behind any thought of providing safety to the public. And engineers learn that, right? Doctors learn that. The first tenet of the Hippocratic Oath is primum non nocere. In Latin, that means first do no harm. And I think us, the engineers as well, although it's not the same thing, the order of the engineer says that engineers are to be public servant, right? And so the idea of engineering is to transform raw materials into usable products for the benefit of the public that we serve. And so education fits in that category for me, the category of things that are necessary for humans to function. And so although it is possible to capitalize on these sort of things like safety, healthcare, education, we should be very careful how we go about capitalizing on these things, because the people who are looking for safety are not people who have choices, nor are they people who should be thinking about paying for their safety in the moment that they need it. Healthcare is the same thing. If you have an emergency, you just show up at the emergency room and they have to take care of you. Well, if you need education as well, I think that's like an emergency. And you should be able to show up, and the people who have access to the education should offer it to you. But can they offer it to you for free? It's not always possible to do it for free. But I've got to say that in the process of capitalizing on opportunities, at times we tend to be too focused on profit. And so while I support the idea of profiting on any solution that you bring to the market, you've got to be aware of the necessity for that product. And you've got to be aware of what kind of solution that this is. How I should say, how critical is it for the survival of our species? Education is critical for our survival. And we can't get in the habit of thinking just about the profit and not about the quality of that education. Most businesses are not good businesses. Most businesses are good at selling things. And so the businesses that are popping up nowadays to attempt to solve the technology education problem, they fit into most business categories. Profit is what is at the center, and I think that's a problem. This is a long-winded monologue to say that I believe there's a problem in the technology education space, and that's a complex problem that doesn't have a one-faceted solution. And it is not a problem that the academics are going to solve. It is not a problem that the new institutions that are purely capitalistic in nature are going to solve. It is rather, in my opinion, a problem that's going to be solved by the community. And in this community, you will find senior technologists, aspiring technologists, employers, recruiters, technology companies such as Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet, and the rest of them. All of these members of this ecosystem need to come together to work for one common goal, which is to close the IT and cybersecurity skills gap. So I volunteer myself to be one of these members, having been around for a long time and having and by many accounts done magics in this space. I have a huge amount of information that I have collected, and I want to document it, right? And I want to document it in style, and that's why I built this studio, so that I can have the space to just speak the thoughts that come and document the information that I have to disseminate and leave this library of information to guide those who are looking for guidance. And to do that benevolently, that doesn't mean I'm doing this for free. Behind this desire to bring the solution, there is an entrepreneur in me, right, that wants to get paid as well at some point. But I wanna always infuse the entrepreneur in me with a heavy dose of humanity, right? A heavy dose of benevolence to ensure that my profit is not what guides me every day, but rather the philosophy, in the desire, the spirit of providing those in need with the tools I have that can carry them out of the circumstances that they are, like I once was. And if I continue to do it that way, and if we continue to put in the back of our mind, in simple terms, that profit is not what drives us first, quality of education and making a quality technical education accessible, if that drives us first, then profit will come. And I think that's what's missing. People are telling information that's not necessarily pure or accurate. And so I come to provide I'd say, a counter argument, right? Another line of thinking that would tell people my story and the stories of my peers about how we got to where we are, and if others want, they can follow. So I'm here to answer questions so that I don't have to reply to a bunch of messages. And I'm learning how to do that. I was hoping that the questions would just pop up on the screen here, but if they don't, I'm looking at people here. I think people are watching this. There are some people watching this here, and I want to see if you guys are commenting here. But if you're not, since this is the first edition of this, I think there will be others. Every Friday we're coming together here, and we're not just going to talk about technology education. I'm going to open this to you so you can see the things that are available to you. Why don't I do that now? I think I have just about, how many more minutes I have here? I have 3 more minutes. Okay, here's what I'll do. I'm going to give you a brief view of some of the things that I have been working on here behind the scene. I'm here in the cyber defense research environment, and I do these sort of things, break into things all day, and that brings me the fun that I'm looking for. I'm making sure that I'm doing this safely here as I'm going to share my screen with you. And I'm making sure that what you don't need to see is removed. Okay, I'm ready now. I'm going to bring screen number 4 over here. Bam, bam. You're good to go here. And voila. Yes, we're good. Good. Okay. I want to make sure that I double check what's out. Wow, this should have been something done by 4 or 5 people, and I'm able to do all of that by myself. This is so cool. I'm using this tool that's called Restream.io. If you want to do the same thing, Restream.io. I was introduced to this thing a few weeks ago, and that is a lifesaver. But think about this, folks. You need to have access to real technology. If you're going to learn technology, you need to have access to real technology. And the real technology is difficult for you to have access to it. And why is that true? Over here, I have a lab, right? A research learning environment where students can learn anything that they want. I'm going to show you the diagram of this lab, right? This is complex, massive, bigger than most medium-sized, mid-sized enterprises, right? There it is. Over here, what you're looking at here is the diagram, the layout of this network, enterprise network that we've built. And it's modulated. So there are modules. There's the enterprise core, enterprise edge, service provider edge, and that's how these things are designed and architected for real when they're done by people who know how to do it. And you have a data center, right? Traditional data center that's merged with a non-traditional data center. Part of that stuff lives in the cloud. And you have Palo Alto here. This is a Palo Alto. This is a second Palo Alto. This is a third Palo Alto. Over here, this is a Fortinet. I'm here. I happen to be right here, right? And I'm behind this Fortinet here. And you can see the Fortinet dashboard right up here. So I can navigate from here and go to this environment. I didn't tell you about this student networks and network environment. Here you see there are 4 of these such environment. These are kind of like packages of networks that are pre-built, pre-designed a certain type of way for students to be able to use them. And what you are looking at here is this. You have this, that's a Cisco router. I think that's an ISR 1000 something. Another one here. And you have a Catalyst. And some of these Catalysts are brand new Catalysts, 9200s down below here and 9300s up here. These are brand new, fully licensed. So this over here makes a Cisco network for students to learn on, right? Routers, switches. This is a distribution. This is an access. And this could be like a traditional core. Not that we care about building our network with a traditional core that's doing layer 3 or inter-VLAN routing. We don't do that sort of stuff anymore. We move that to the firewall for threat inspection or deep or segmentation of the network and deep packet inspection as packets move between subnets. But I want to give the students a way to start, a way to learn about routing, learn about static routing, move to OSPF, single area OSPF, multi-area OSPF, EIGRP, BGP, and so on and so forth. And you learn this. I learned that you learn this better as you do it on routers. And then eventually these routers, they're connected to the firewalls. These firewall students can do whatever they want on it, right? Damage it, there's no problem. But here's the problem that I wanted to show you, why this is so difficult. It took me 3 years to get to that level. A massive amount of investment. You look at here, we have Splunk, fully licensed Splunk, right? Splunk is such an expensive thing. On average, it'll cost you about $300,000 to have a real Splunk heavy forwarder and some light forwarders as well. I'll invite people who are Splunk experts, like Hassan, to come and tell you guys all about this. But we have that, right? And we have a bunch of other things that are very exclusive in nature, like FortiNAC. We have a FortiNAC deployment here. We have ICE. We have Aruba ClearPass, like things that you can't get your hands on. Getting your hands on this FortiNAC would cost you on average $50,000, right? Only enterprises with the budget can afford that, let alone students who are just thinking about learning it. So what's the challenge? Why is it that this is so difficult? Here's why it's difficult. I am right here, and you will be somewhere across the world as well. And we want to give you access to this, right? To learn. You want to learn on this real environment. Well, we need to give you remote access to it, right? Me, since I'm part of the owners of this environment, I can have a tunnel from my FortiGate to my Palo Altos that carries my traffic into this private space right here. And I'm going to show you that in a second. But the problem is when you start learning this, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to lose IP connectivity. And you're not just one person. Tens of people are learning this and tens of people are making mistakes. And so these things are going up and down. We have a PRTG instance somewhere here. Let me see if I can bring it up real quickly. PRTG, where are you? That's monitoring this. And this is in the data center, right? And you guys can quickly see that I have direct access. That's because I built a tunnel that takes me from my home office all the way to the data center very quickly. So PRTG is monitoring this, right? You have 40 sensors being monitored here and one sensor that's down, right? One sensor that, a ping sensor, that means a device down, an access device, an access switch is down. So students are going to break these things, right? And that's the nature of it. And you don't want to make the students afraid of testing and learning, et cetera, et cetera. But how do you continue to learn if you break it, right? Look at this diagram here. You come in from home, you have VPN access, you vet it here on this Palo Alto, you come down here on this second Palo Alto, on this third Palo Alto, and then you enter this environment here. And then you break the IP connectivity. Then you lose access to this environment. These are 4 separate networks for 4 separate groups of students. So you break the access switch for your network, then no more access to it. But we solve this problem. And here's how we solve this. We solve this with console servers. The console servers, I'm logging in here with a student account. The console servers are the ones that the students would remote into as last resort. When they break the network, they don't have IP connectivity to the network anymore, then they console into the network as if they were right in front of the switch. The type of thing that you would do if you are working in an environment and then all hell breaks loose, IP connectivity is lost to your devices, and you would now carry your laptop with you, your console cable, and then go and plug into the devices to restore order. Then now you can do that remotely. This is a massive thing to accomplish. And to make this self-healing, where the network is aware of the working baseline config, so that when there's a deviation from that baseline config that causes a network outage, where we lose IP connectivity, it reloads the baseline config so that connectivity can be restored without human involvement. But if connectivity cannot be restored for any reason, you have a second option, which is to console in the device from afar. Look at me, I'm not in front of the device right here, and I'm consoling into it. There are plenty of console servers that you can buy, but we use OpenGear here. If I lose access to this network, that's one of the networks that the students have access to. They have 8 devices in this network, 8 routing and switching devices, not to account for the firewalls and the servers, etc. Then I can console into it. You can see here there's one person who's consoling. That probably this person's trying to fix an error that they couldn't fix over IP. TCP IP has been broken for them some type of way. So I want to open this to you all so you can ask me all of your questions, and I'll answer these questions live, and I'll give you access to this as well. We're exploring a way to give you access to this safely. And we're being very careful because we know bad actors can camouflage as learners and come in this environment just to conduct their malicious research or reconnaissance, to harvest people's data and perform malicious actions. And we're aware of this. And we have telemetry, we have intelligence that can help us detect this. But we haven't found the magic formula yet to say, okay, we can vet you without any doubt that you are who you say you are, and we should give you access to this. So far, this has been possible for the paying customers, but we want to give, as some people suggest on the internet, we want to give some minimum access for free, and we're working on that. But this type of access is what you need, folks. I have over here an Aruba instant deployment that I had been working on as well. I can't show you the whole thing. I don't like to get in the habit of showing my credentials, but I'll plan better next time, and I'll be able to share more things with you. Val IoT, that's not really my username for my Aruba Instant. It is rather the name of an SSID. In my home network, there is an IoT network, and that's the name of the SSID that you see here, where garage door openers and light switches and stuff like that are intelligent. They can connect to the Wi-Fi, and that's so beautiful. I like the Aruba Instance so much that I'm putting my 40 gig or 40 net. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen before I make a mistake here and share something confidential. But I'm replacing my 40 AP with Aruba Instant, and I like the speed. I like so many things about Aruba Instant, and I'll come to tell you guys about these. But I wanna know what you're interested in. I want to know how to serve this community better. So I can only do that if you're having questions. There's some questions. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't see these questions. They should have popped up on my screen. How do I see these questions? This says send us your questions. I was trained on that, and the idea is that when the Q&A is happening, I'll see the questions pop up here. And I don't see the questions. If I can't see the questions, then it defeats the purpose, because the whole idea is for me to see the questions and answer them live so that I don't have to worry about sending a bunch of messages throughout the week. I'll answer to messages that I can, and then the rest I'll just give answers publicly right here. But let me see if I can see what you guys are asking me on over here. Okay, I see some questions here, some comments here. Well, for some reason, I can't really see them. Oh, there they are. What about cloud security? Are you on track? You are on the track, man. Great job. Thank you all. What about cloud security? Let me give you something about cloud security, right? What do you want to know about cloud security? Let me show you the diagram again. And the questions will feed me, guys, because oops, I need to mute this. If you don't ask me the questions, I won't know what to talk about. I'll talk about all kinds of stuff, and I have a lot to talk about. But cloud security, right? Before I dive into that, I need to show you the diagram again. I'm gonna get back with this on the screen, and I'm gonna show you how I go about cloud security, right? A lot of people probably don't know that the cloud is not new. The cloud is an evolution of the traditional network. The cloud has its own way based on the vendor of the cloud. Like Azure Cloud has its own way of building the network. Here's one example, for instance. The VNets represent, in my opinion, the subnets or the VLANs. But unlike the traditional network, where the different VLANs don't have access to one another, right? But there is a broadcast domain, and that broadcast domain is contained within each specific VLAN. So if there's a broadcast, all of the devices on this VLAN will hear the broadcast, but not the other devices. In Azure, the VNets communicate with one another by default. And then you have to do some magic, kind of like it's the inverse, for you to restrict that. But cloud security, right? You need to look at this from the point of view of the traditional network. As we have this network here that has a segment in the cloud, right? Now, let's say we move this whole block from here. Let's move this whole block from here. Or I'm going to copy this whole block, and I'm going to redo this thing in the cloud. This whole thing can be built in the cloud just like that. Instead of lugging in PRTG that's inside of the data center, I could lug in PRTG that's in the cloud, because PRTG is just a software that's installed on the Windows operating system. So I can have a Windows server in Azure or in AWS, and then install PRTG on that. So I'll have, let's say now we have that in the cloud. But realize that it's separated from the rest of the network. How do you get access to this PRTG now? Well, you could have an IP address, and plenty of people I've seen have a public IP address for their VMs in their other resources in Azure. As a result of that, you have access to it. Yes, it's easy access, but easy access to you and easy access to bad actors as well. So when you add the mentality, right, that you used to have when you were securing a traditional network, as you're moving into the cloud, here's what you do. You put a Palo Alto, a FortiGate, a Checkpoint, a Cisco Firepower, some type of firewall in front of your protect zone. And what does that look like here now? Look at that. You can establish a local connection from your network here to your network in the cloud. And so you'll have another branch here to carry you to the cloud. And now the same security that you used to have on premise, we have a Panorama here to manage all of these Palo Altos centrally. So you add that Palo Alto here, manage with your Panorama on premise or Panorama wherever you have it. And now you have the same security in the cloud as well. So as people transact from the local area network to the cloud, they go through your Palo Alto and you heavily secure there. And let's say you have the internet. You have servers here that have to be open to the internet. No problem. You have a branch that carries you to the internet. Let's say the internet is here. Let's put a representation for the internet, cloud or web. Okay, here's the internet here. Okay, so no problem. These people are going to come through your Palo Alto. Now, one might say, I can have a bottleneck. Well, no problem. You can have an HA deployment here. And there are other types of deployment that are more modern that you can have, where you can have a scale set where it goes up and down based on the load that's going through. And then this whole thing can be sandwiched, right? You have a load balancer right up front here. Let's put a load balancer somewhere, right? Load balancer. Okay, this is a load balancer. You see, you have a load balancer here. You have a pair of Palo Altos here. I'm gonna make them a bit smaller. And I'm gonna remove the word Palo Alto, so it's not too busy. And look at that now. Suddenly, you have a better looking network, right? A pair of load balancers here. In your traffic now will go to this load balancer. You have a load balancer facing the protected zone, the Azure workloads that you have, and you have another load balancer facing the public zone. Look at that. As a result of that, this topology can be called the sandwich topology. In Palo Alto, way back, and when I say way back, I'm talking about 5 years ago or so, came up with this architecture that they call the Transit VNet architecture for Azure specifically. In the Transit VNet architecture, what does it do? You have a VNet where everything transits. In this whole thing, all of the networking for this Palo Alto deployment inside of your Azure would be inside of the Transit VNet. So everything will transit through this VNet before they enter your protection or before they leave your protection. So look at that. You have this here. You can establish this. You'll have a gateway here, a VPN gateway somewhere. We're not going to go too crazy. I just want to answer your question. We're going to leave the web so you can have the idea that the web is here. And people who are coming from the web, this is probably where you host applications that customers have to use for them to transact with the business, right? To make payments and to sign up or whatever. They have to come into these servers to do that. But you want to make sure that you don't open it to bad guys as well. Bad guys are coming from the internet, right? Customers are here, but bad guys are here as well. So let's put them over here on the web, come into your servers, right? From the web. They're going to come through this external load balancer. We can call it external because it's facing the WAN. And you have this other load balancer that's facing the relative land or your Azure tenant. Now, this load balancer is where traffic is forwarded when it's coming from the Azure protect zones. In traffic that's coming from the outside comes from here. And so that goes through the Palo Alto. This maintains the awareness of which Palo Alto is active so that it forwards the traffic to the Palo Alto that is active at the time. That's the idea of the load balancers up here. Look at how you secure that, right? The same exact way that you would secure the traditional network on premise. Now, that's one side of cloud security. That's not all there is, right? You have web applications. We start to secure the web applications here because you are given the transport to those web applications, but there are more things that you can do. And we're probably not going to be able to talk about all of them in one session, but I give you the answer about cloud security. So one might wonder, if we're talking about the cloud, why do we need to know traditional networking? I just proved to you why you need that. Because you need to understand how traditional networks work and how you secure a network before you can secure the cloud properly. So you won't be able to get away, just like the people who thought they could major in something else so that they don't have to learn mathematics. When it comes to IT or cybersecurity, networking is kind of like mathematics. A lot of people don't like it. They find it difficult, challenging, et cetera, but we can't get away without it. And I think that's where I'm going to end for today, folks. I'm going to see if I have one more question. And I'll answer one more question, and I'll stop here. But before I do, I need to stop sharing for security. Let me see. Okay, folks, that was great. That was a great session. That's the first time I'm doing this, and I am happy that you all came here with me. Get the word out, get more people to be here next Friday. We'll come back, and it'll last no more than 30 minutes. I want to thank you all, and together we can build a great community where people can have access to the resources that they need. I think we need to put an agenda for next week. What we're going to talk about next week is network design. How do you design a network properly, a secure network properly? That's what the topic is going to be next week. And if you have questions between now and then, send me the questions still, and I'll answer them in a live podcast. So don't be upset if you send me messages and I don't reply. That means on Friday, I'm going to reply. I'm going to answer all of the questions one by one. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. I'm Jared Derival, and this is my proof of concept.